reciting the prayers of the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sarvashashrabdi Piyusha Samvedaika Sattvala Savasiddhanta Ratnaja Savalokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singing the fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truth, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kaliduntu Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life-fear of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali, you are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Parataya Prema Vashaksharayate Savada Savasevyaya Sri Krishna Namostame. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served for everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. But Eko Bando Matsangin Manguru Manmahadana Mannistar Bhagya Madananda Namostate. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Sadhu sadhu tadayan ati nishchochatakara hanamuchakara janmam pranavritkanteosvara. O bestower of saintness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart, my voice of pure love. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 11, 4th canto, chapter 11. Swayambhuva Manu advises Dhruva Maharaj to stop fighting. Now, I just got sent this morning that I'm doing text 32, but previously I was asked to do 33. So should I do 32 or 33? I mean, I've prepared for 33, so...
Prabhu can do 32. And very similar verses, short purports. We can do both, I think.
So read through both?
Both, yes.
Okay. So I'll just read text 2, 32, sorry. I'll read through the Sanskrit and the purport, and then we can do 33 together. So that's 4th canto, chapter 11, text 32. Yeno pasrishtat purushal loka udvijate brisham nabudhas tad vashang gachched icchan nabayam atmanaha. A person who desires liberation from this material world should not fall under the control of anger, because when bewildered by anger, one becomes a source of dread for all others. So just in case anyone doesn't know, this is Manu speaking to Dhruva Maharaj. Purport. A devotee or saintly person should not be dreadful to others, nor should anyone be a source of dread to him. If one treats others with non-enmity, then no one will become his enemy. There is the example, however, of Jesus Christ, who had enemies and they crucified him. The demoniac are always present and they find fault even in saintly persons. But a saintly person never becomes angry, even if there is very great provocation. So text 33 we can do together. Helanam girisha bratur Danadasya tvaya kritam Yaj jag nivan punya janan Pratrignan it yamarshitaha Helanam girisha bratur Danadasya tvaya kritam Yaj Jagnivan Punya Janan Ratrignan It Yamarshitaha Helanam Girisha Bhratur Dhanadasya Tvayaktam Yajjag Nivan Punyajanan Ratrignan Ityamarshitaha
Helanam
Girisha Bhratur
Dhanadasya Tvayakritam
Dhanadasya Tvayakritam
Yajjagnivan Punyajanan
Yajjagnivan Punyajanan
Ratrignan Ityamarshitaha
Ratrignan Ityamarshitaha
Helanam Girisha Bhratur
Helanam Girisha Bhratur
Dhanadasya Tvayakritam
Dhanadasya Tvayakritam
Yajjagnivan Punyajanan
Yajjagnivan Punyajanan
Vritratrindnan Vitam Shrita
Ratrignan Ityamarshitaha
Helanam Girisha Bhratur
Helanam Girisha Bhratur
Dhanadasya Tvayakritam
Dhanadasya Tvayakritam
Yajjagnivan Punyajanan
Yajjagnivan Punyajanan
Ratrignan Ityamarshitaha
Ratrignan Ityamarshitaha. Word for word. Helanam. Disrespectful behavior. Girisha. Of Lord Shiva. Bhratu. The brother. Dhanadasya. To Kavira. Tvaya. Vayu. Kritam. Was performed. Yet. Because. Jagnivan. You have killed. Punya Janan. The Yakshas. Bhratri. Of your brother. Gnan. Killers. Iti. Thus. Thinking. Amarshita. Angry. Translation. My dear Dhruva, you thought that the Yakshas killed your brother, and therefore you have killed great numbers of them. But by this action, you have agitated the mind of Lord Shiva's brother, Kuvera, who is the treasurer of the demigods. Please note that your actions have been very disrespectful to Kuvera and Lord Shiva. Purport. Lord Manu stated that Dhruva Maharaj had been offensive to Lord Shiva and his brother Kuvera because the Yakshas belonged to Kuvera's family. They were not ordinary persons. As such, they have been described as Punya Janan, pious men. Somehow or other, the mind of Kuvera had been agitated, and Dhruva Maharaj was advised to pacify him. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ong Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. My dear Dhruva, you thought that the Yakshas killed your brother, and therefore you have killed great numbers of them. But by this action, you have agitated the mind of Lord Shiva's brother, Kuvera, who is the treasurer of the demigods. Please note that your actions have been very disrespectful to Kuvera and Lord Shiva. Welcome, everybody. Today I'll discuss two main points. Those being, who is really in control, who causes death, and secondly, the great value of an apology. I just wanted to go back a few texts to text 24 to begin with. So in text 24, Swayambhuva Maharaj, he said to Dhruva Maharaj, my dear son, the Yakshas who are descendants of Kuvera are not actually the killers of your brother. The birth and death of every living entity are caused by the Supreme, who is certainly the cause of all causes. Now, if someone comes at you with an axe and tries to kill you, generally speaking, you'll think this person's trying to kill me. But here at Swayambhuva Manu, he's getting deeper. Who's really in control? Who's behind everything? Who's pulling all the strings, so to speak? And today he's saying something similar. My dear Dhruva, you thought that the Yakshas killed your brother, and therefore you have killed great numbers of them. So as we hear in Bhagavad Gita, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvang janma ritasya cha. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and for one who is facing death, you're going to take another body. You're going to take birth again. So death is inevitable. If you've got a material body, you will die. And this is Krishna's arrangement. This is how he set the system up. He's the ultimate killer in one sense. In Bhagavad Gita, he says, Kalosmi lokashaya krit pravrido, that I am time, the great destroyer of all the worlds, and I've come here to destroy all people. So he's saying it's actually, I am actually that person that kills everyone. Of course, as we know in the next verse, he says to Arjuna, you can become but an instrument in the fight. So the Yakshas, they were only instruments in the hands of time. They weren't the ultimate killers of Dhruva's brother. In this way, Manu is indicating to Dhruva Maharaj that his revenge spree was a little over the top. And because of this, Kuvera is now a little ticked off. And Manu is trying to impress this on Dhruva Maharaj that Kuvera, he's not so happy right now. So you've upset Kuvera. Please note that your actions have been very disrespectful to Kuvera and Lord Shiva. So one may ask, why is Kuvera upset? Manu's explaining to Dhruva Maharaj who's really in control, and Kuvera is a great personality. Shouldn't he also understand who's really in control and not be upset? It's just time. Time's just taking its effect and people are dying. What's the problem? As Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, Kuvera is upset because the Yakshas belong to his family. And not only that, obviously if someone in your family is killed, you're upset. So Dhruva Maharaj, his family members killed, he's upset, he takes revenge, and then Kuvera's family members, they're killed, and now he's upset. And also the Yakshas, they're described as Punya Janan, pious men. And as we know, it's not proper that pious men suffer sinful reactions. That's not a normal thing. The way the world works is if you're pious, you get a good reaction, generally speaking. So for their whole family to be slaughtered, the whole Yaksha race being annihilated, and at the same time they're being referred to as Punya Janan, seems a little contradictory. In any case, Kuvera's mind is now agitated because of the actions of Dhruva Maharaj, and it's now Dhruva's responsibility to make amends. Manu, he's now explaining to Dhruva Maharaj that it's now upon you, it behooves you to apologize, because there's a few things that are going to happen now. First of all, the wrath of Kuvera. We don't want that. We don't want that upon our family. This is action and reaction. We all know the simple thing. If you go onto the street and then you attack someone, you try punching them, naturally they're going to try to respond. They're going to punch you back, or they're going to try to get some assistance from someone else. You're going to get some kind of reaction. So similarly, the Yakshas, they've killed Dhruva's brother. So Dhruva's thought, okay, you've done that, fine, I'll kill you. So he's killed the archers. And so Manu's seeing this happen and that happen, and he's thinking, well, now Kuvera is going to use all his weapons against us, and he's no slouch, Kuvera. He's the lord of all the archers, so obviously he's a pretty powerful person. He's the treasurer of the demigods. He's got a lot of money to finance a war against us, maybe. And so Swayambhuva Manu is concerned because he's connected to Dhruva Maharaj. He's Dhruva Maharaj's grandfather. He doesn't want his family to be affected. Therefore, to prevent this reaction from happening to his family, Manu's advising Dhruva Maharaj to do the thing that we all love to do, especially conditioned souls. Our most favorite thing is to apologize, take the humble position, say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Manu's advising Dhruva Maharaj to take the humble position. And especially this is even more painful for a Kshatriya. Every warrior is just waiting to submit to someone and admit defeat. Of course they are. Ordinarily for a Kshatriya, a warrior, to take the humble position, it's so painful. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. So for a Kshatriya to admit that I'm wrong, I've been defeated, I'm inferior, it's just so painful. They'd rather die. And that's generally what a real Kshatriya does. They either win or they die. Because to be defeated is just, it's painful. It's so painful. But because Dhruva Maharaj is a pure devotee, it's not such a big deal for him to apologize. And on top of that, he's being instructed by a pure devotee who also happens to be his grandfather, Swayambhuva Manu. And not to mention, there's so many sages present with Manu, and they're all supporting Manu's decision. So I was thinking to try and relate to this, try to imagine this scene. Say, for example, you did something really bad. You burnt the sweet rice for the Sunday feast. And then Srila Prabhupada turns up, accompanied by many of his disciples. And then he gives you good instruction. And in the course of all that instruction that he gives to you, he concludes by saying that you should apologize to the temple president for burning the sweet rice. So it wouldn't be a big deal, right? Srila Prabhupada, a pure devotee and our spiritual grandfather, along with many of his prominent disciples, are all encouraging you to apologize to the temple president. So if you've got that much weight and support and spiritual instruction coming at you, then whatever you do wouldn't be such a big deal. So that, I was trying to think, that's maybe Dhruva Maharaj's situation. He's got Swayambhuva Manu, who's a pure devotee, his grandfather, and he's surrounded by all these great sages, and they're all saying, yeah, you should apologize to Kuvera. Now, I was thinking from this instance, we can learn the great value of an apology. First of all, it saves you from unwanted reactions, like violence. And second, it improves or saves a relationship. And third, since seniors are recommending it, it must be a suitable course of action. If Swayambhuva Manu and all these great sages are saying you should apologize, obviously it's a good thing to do. And especially we should be very eager to apologize when and as required to Vaishnavas. As Maharaj Rahugana says, I'm not at all afraid of the thunderbolt of King Indra, nor am I afraid of the serpentine piercing trident of Lord Shiva. I do not care about the punishment of Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, nor am I afraid of fire, scorching sun, moon, wind, nor the weapons of Kuvera. It's ironic he's saying the weapons of Kuvera at the end there, he's not afraid of them. Whereas Swayambhuva Manu, in this case, it seems to be indicating that we are afraid of these weapons. But Maharaj Rahugana continues and he says, yet I'm afraid of offending a Brahmana. I'm very much afraid of this. Hearing this from Maharaj Rahugana, we should think that, therefore, if I offend a devotee, I should be very, very eager to apologize. We should be ready to apologize to anyone we've offended, but especially so in the case of a devotee. It's the mad elephant offense, offending Vaishnavas. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says to Rupa Goswami, Yadi Vaishnava aparada uti hati mata. If we commit the mad elephant offense, it destroys our devotional service. Consequently, we should be always alert not to offend devotees. And if we do, we should be very quick to apologize for the offense. Today, the two main things that we covered were, first, who's really in control of this world? The ultimate cause, that's Krishna. Kalos me, time I am, Krishna says. And secondly, when you upset someone, you should apologize, especially if it's a devotee. So we've got quite a bit of time there. It was a bit of a shorter class today. I'm sure no one will mind that. So there's some time for questions or comments if anyone would like to add anything or inquire in any way.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, thank you for a short but to the point class. Prabhu, in case of apology, how should one render apology? I mean, sometimes can be very routine or just for the sake of it. What should be what is the process?
That's a very good question. So the question was, what's the process of apologizing? How does one actually execute an apology? I'm thinking in the case of who I just quoted there, Maharaj Rahugana, he offended Jada Bharat, and then once Jada Bharat gave his response, which was basically like, yeah, I'm not the body, you can insult it, it doesn't affect me. And then Maharaj Rahugana, being as cultured as he was, realized, whoops, I've just offended a great Paramahamsa. I didn't realize he was an avadut, he was in disguise, but now that he's spoken and his words have great potency, I see now that he is a great soul. In Maharaj Rahugana's case, he just fell on the floor, paid full dandavats and begged for forgiveness. And if we offend a great soul like Shivaram Swami, Devamarita Swami, any exalted Vaishnav, we can follow the same suit, just immediately fall on the floor, beg for forgiveness. And we see this all throughout the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srimad Bhagavatam. If it's in the case of someone who's maybe our peer or junior or someone on the street that we meet, then it may be a bit different. For example, with peers, we can discuss, and sometimes that may be very difficult, depending on how severe the offense is. So I know in my case, I've had some difficult apologies to make, shall we say, and so I've gone to a senior Vaishnav and then they've mediated the meeting. So you want to apologize from one person to another, and sometimes it can be quite tense that you need like a senior to oversee the apology so it goes nicely. I've been in that situation, so that's if it's really tense. But if it's not so tense, then you can just be person to person and explain your vision and how you saw things, and sorry for the misunderstanding, and how did you see it? Like, what, I understand that there's been a misunderstanding here. This is how I saw it. How did you see it? So basically just the discussion often works. just both people discussing their perspective. That's if both parties are willing to do that. That's not always the case, but if it is, then that's an easy way to do it. Just talk it out, basically. And there's many devotees that I've had that experience with. They're willing to talk, and so it's easy to apologize in that sense. If it's someone on the street, like not even a devotee, I mean, first of all, Vaisheshika Prabhu's principle of outreach is that we, number one principle is leave everyone with a good impression. That's our objective, that's our goal. So if we're having to apologize, it's possible that we're not keeping that goal in mind. And that's our interactions with everyone. We should always try to leave everyone with a good impression, because the fact that we're practicing Krishna consciousness means that we're representing Krishna, which means that in one sense we're preaching just because we're trying to be a devotee, and so we have to try and leave everyone with a good impression. That's not always going to happen, of course. We try our best to do that. Some people will misunderstand. So we can apologize for the misunderstanding. Oh, I'm sorry you misunderstood what I was trying to say. I'm sorry that you took it that way. That's not what I meant. And again, that's if the person's willing to listen. For those people that we'd like to apologize to but aren't willing to listen, there's not too much we can do in terms of the personal interaction. But we can beg for forgiveness from Krishna. You know, I'm sorry I've upset this jiva, this soul. We can even speak to senior Vaishnavas, reveal our mind, what happened, how the scenario played out. You know, what can I do to alleviate this? How can I prevent it from happening in the future? Inquire like that. So I guess the main thrust of my point was that it depends. The process depends on who we're apologizing to, whether it's senior, equal, junior, or someone who's not even practicing Krishna consciousness at all. And of course, yeah, if it's quite a tense apology, like the situation is very trying, then have someone mediate the apology and help smooth things over. But of course, the main thing that for it to really work is we should actually really be sorry. It's when you don't want to apologize and you have to, but you don't, your heart's not in it, you don't invest in it, then the other person can pick up on that. They can tell that you don't really mean it. So we actually have to really self-reflect, be introspective and think, okay, what's going on here? How am I in the wrong? And as we know, the verse, Trinadapi Sunichena, Tororapi Sahishna, Amanina Manidina, Kirtana Sadahari. Am I applying this verse in my life? If I am, then it shouldn't be such a big deal to apologize. It shouldn't be such a big deal. But if apologizing is, then maybe I need to read that verse again and try to assimilate it and try to understand it and try to understand why Lord Chaitanya said this. Because if we're really proud and things rattle around in our head, then it can be hard to think of Krishna. As I've heard His Holiness Deva Amrita Maharaj explain, he said that I don't want my chanting of Hare Krishna to have any impediments. So therefore that verse is very essential, so I can continue chanting Hare Krishna without any problems, without any baggage in the brain. Because if we're thinking, oh, I've been offended, me, damn it, then we're thinking about ourselves and not Krishna. Whereas if we're just, oh, this is just Krishna's arrangement for me to get this reaction, I deserve much worse. I should have actually had a thunderbolt fall on my head, but someone just spoke some harsh words to me. So actually this isn't such a big deal. I should carry on with my program. And that's easier said than done, no doubt. Hence why I've often gone to my mentor to talk about certain things, because it rattles around in the brain. some people, they shrug things off quite easily. So it's individual as well. It's apologizing and executing it as an individual thing. I thought I made a big offense to a devotee once, and I went and spoke to them about it, and they were like, what? Like they didn't think anything of it at all. Like nothing. I hadn't made any offense at all as far as they were concerned, but I just apologized anyway, just to make sure that, you know, Krishna wasn't displeased with me. Just like Ambarish Maharaj, you know, Devasa Muni made a Mahaparad, but Ambarish Maharaj is thinking, you know, yeah, maybe I tried to be a good host, but yeah, I had to break the fast by drinking water, and of course that's upset my guest, and he still fully served Devasa Muni once he came back after, you know, Devasa Muni had tried to kill him. He still served Devasa Muni. So Ambarish Maharaj is so exemplary. So we have to sometimes look at it from that angle as well. Maybe that person's not offended, but Krishna is. So we also have to be careful on that respect as well. So the simple short answer to all that stuff that I've just said, in case no one caught any of what I just said, including myself, is Trinada Pisuna Chena. That verse, that's the essence of interaction with people. We should respect others, and we shouldn't desire respect for ourselves. And in that case, it'll be easy to apologize because we're respecting others. We know how to say please, thank you, and sorry. And we're not expecting an apology for ourselves, so we're not upset, and we can carry on with our bhajan, kirtani asada hari. So I hope that helped in some respect. Do you have anything you'd like to say, Nandaraj Prabhu?
Thank you, Bruce. Very nice Robert, answer to this question. This really helps. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else have any reflection, comments? Have we still got a few minutes?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my obeisances. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, who's that?
Nalini.
I thought so. I just can't see your picture.
Sorry, I'm not turning on the video. Sorry for that. Prabhu, like many times when we give book to someone and we say you can open any verse and you can start anywhere, because we want them to open the book, touch Srila Prabhupada's book, and suppose they happen to read this verse where Lord Manu is giving this instruction to Dhruva Maharaj, where it is explained, as you mentioned, that Krishna is cause of all causes. So they might say, oh, I have done this, I have stolen this, or I have harmed this person, but it is all Krishna's arrangement. It's all because of Krishna. How do we answer to that? I'm speculating a little bit, but just came to my mind.
Well, that's the glory of Srila Prabhupada's purports. Yeah, if we didn't have Prabhupada's purports, then reading Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam would just be unlimited misinterpretations, misunderstandings. And as I've heard His Holiness Deva Mrita Maharaj explain that, I can't remember his name. Maybe it was Heinrich Himmler, maybe. One of the Nazi party people, he took, one of the verses from Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter, I believe, which basically says that one's not the doer. Oh, so maybe it's not 18th chapter. Anyway, that one is not the doer and one is not the killer. So this person in the Nazi regime used this verse to say that I'm not the killer of all these Jews, basically. So he totally misused the philosophy. So yeah, misunderstandings can be there, and Krishna does say that you can be just but an instrument. But that's the thing. We are still the instrument. We still participate. We still have the right to choose whether or not we want to be the instrument or not. So if someone says, yes, time's killing everyone, that's time's responsibility. But are you acting as time's instrument? So you do incur some responsibility too. We're not like a knife. A knife doesn't incur responsibility because it's dead. But when human beings murder someone, they go to court and they're tried. And if they're found guilty, they're put in prison or killed. So obviously there is some kind of responsibility upon us, even though ultimately time killed that person. That's true on the deepest level. But Manu's going for the deep explanation here. But that doesn't excuse us from our own independence. We have free will. So explaining that to someone, you could say that, yes, ultimately that's true on the deepest level. That is that person's karma. It is time. At the same time, you don't have to be an instrument of time. You can choose whether you are the killer of that person or not. We still have our individual, within the realms of time's all-pervasive domination, we have our own independent free will as to how we play out our part. So we have independence, but it's very tiny. But still, that can make the difference between us going to hell or not, because we chose to kill that person or not. Time's going to kill them anyway. Doesn't mean we have to participate. Does that help at all, Prabhu?
Yeah, thank you very much, Prabhu. Thanks a lot.
Nice question. I think we've hit time there. Nanda Raj, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. So,
Hare
there are no
Krishna,
que-
Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
yes, Maji, go ahead with your questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I have heard that if someone offends you, someone offends a devotee, and you don't take it as an offense, then the effects, the results of the sin go back to the person who is offending you, and you just leave it on to Krishna.
Wow, that's really nice. Yeah, that's a very inspirational thing to hear. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, we shouldn't think we're such a big person that we can't be offended. We should think, yes, this is my sinful reaction, and yeah, that's a very encouraging point. Thank you.
Yeah, and we are burning our own karma. So we might as well burn it quietly, tolerate it, and keep going.
Yes, that's a very good point. Thank you for sharing. All right, I guess that's it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much for coming this morning, giving a wonderful explanation of this verse. Thank you, Prabhu. His Grace, Gadai Gauranga Prabhu ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Close Bhakti, Gautam Hari Bol. Vancha
Hari Hari.
Kalpatarubhesha.
Jai.
Pavani.
Pavani.
Thank you.
Namo Namaha.